You know, we live in a world that's just overflowing with dietary advice, right? Miracle cures, new wellness trends every week. But what if one of the most powerful things you could do for your health wasn't about adding something new, but about taking something away completely? Today, we're diving into a pretty radical idea: the body's own power to heal itself through a process that's both ancient and, honestly, totally cutting edge.
Okay, just stop and think about that claim for a second. The most effective treatment ever shown for the things that kill most people. I mean, that's not some new wonder drug or a crazy expensive surgery. So what in the world could Dr. Alan Goldhammer be talking about? Yep, that's it. He's talking about the simple act of consuming nothing but purified water. But, and this is the important part, under strict medical supervision. It sounds almost too basic to be true, but the science behind it is making a lot of people totally rethink what we know about disease and healing. So, to really get the solution, we've got to understand the problem first. And the problem, in a nutshell, is that we are suffering from what are called diseases of dietary excess. I mean, our modern world has basically created a health crisis on a scale nobody's ever seen before. Just look at this number, 76%. That's the percentage of people who are now considered overweight or obese. And this isn't just about how you look in the mirror. No, this is a fundamental change to our biology, and it's being driven by the food we eat, and it's leading to an absolute explosion of chronic diseases. And here's a crucial point. Not all fat is created equal. The real villain in this story is something called visceral fat. This is the nasty stuff, the internal fat that wraps itself around your organs. Dr. Goldhammer actually describes it as acting like a tumor. It's metabolically active, and it's constantly pumping out inflammatory signals that are driving things like heart disease and diabetes. So why is this even happening to us? Well, it's something called the dietary pleasure trap. See, our brains evolved to reward us with a little hit of dopamine when we found high-calorie foods, because, survival. The modern food industry has totally figured this out and exploits it with the SOS combo: salts, oil, and sugar. These aren't really foods. They're more like chemicals that hijack our brain's pleasure centers and completely override the signals that are supposed to tell us we're full. Okay, so if the problem is just constant excess, what's the solution? Well, it's not another diet. It's a therapeutic intervention. It's designed to give the body a complete and total reset. Now, this is the very specific protocol we're talking about. This isn't a juice cleanse or, intermittent fasting. This is the complete absence of all calories. And pay close attention to that last part: in an environment of complete rest. That is absolutely critical, because that's what tells the body, hey, it's time to preserve muscle and focus all your energy on healing and repair. This slide really just nails the difference, doesn't it? Intermittent fasting, that's more of a lifestyle tool for weight management. But what we're talking about, therapeutic fasting, is a major medical intervention with a huge goal: reversing disease. It demands complete rest, not going about your daily business. And we're talking about days or even weeks, not just a few hours, all to trigger this incredibly deep cellular cleanup. I love this analogy. It just makes so much sense. You know when your computer gets slow and buggy and nothing seems to work? Sometimes the only real fix is to just shut it all down and turn it back on. Fasting apparently does a very similar thing for our bodies. It's like a hard reboot that clears out all the junk and lets the whole system start fresh. So how does this reboot actually work? Like, what is really happening inside our bodies, down at the cellular level, when we just stop eating? Let's get into the science of it. All right, so let's walk through the timeline. For the first day or so, your body is just burning through its stored sugar. It's called glycogen. But once that runs out, something truly remarkable happens. An ancient evolutionary switch gets flipped. Your body, and most importantly your brain, shifts from running on sugar to running on something called ketones, which are made directly from your body fat. This is the adaptation that let our ancestors survive famine, and it's the key that unlocks this whole healing process. Okay, so once your body is in that fat-burning state, it seriously ramps up a process called autophagy. The best way to think about this is like the body's deep cleaning crew. It goes around, finds old, damaged, junky cells and cell parts, and just eats them up. It's literally spring cleaning for your insides, getting rid of all the waste that can lead to aging and disease. And the benefits aren't just physical. Fasting also kicks up the production of this powerful neurochemical called BDNF. Think of it like fertilizer for your brain. It helps protect your brain cells from damage and is thought to play a huge role in preventing neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. Pretty amazing, right?
So, look, the theory is really fascinating. But does it actually work in the real world? Let's look at some of the clinical results, because this is where things get really, really compelling.
This chart is just incredible. So, in one study, they found patients lost about 10% of their total body weight. Okay, fine, but look deeper. They lost 20% of their total fat and a staggering 40% of their visceral fat. You know, that dangerous inflammatory stuff we talked about? This shows the body is smart. It knows to burn the most harmful fuel first.
And what about blood pressure? Well, for patients who started out with stage 3 hypertension, we're talking a systolic pressure of 180 or higher, the average drop was 60 points. 60. I mean, that is a life-changing number that basically no single medication can even come close to achieving. And that wasn't a fluke. This quote summarizes a landmark study. 174 patients, in a row, all with high blood pressure, were able to completely normalize it without medication. The results are just unbelievably consistent. Okay, I know. This all sounds amazing, but let's be real. It's also incredibly intense. So who is this for and how is it done safely? Because I have to say this loud and clear. This is not something to try at home.
So, the primary candidates are people who are suffering from those diseases of dietary excess we mentioned earlier: high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, even autoimmune issues. But what's really interesting is that even healthy people can see some profound preventative benefits, usually from shorter, supervised fasts. Safety is everything here, and it all comes down to these 4 non-negotiable pillars. First, there's thorough screening to make sure someone's even a good candidate. Then there's complete rest to protect the body. During the entire fast, there's constant medical monitoring. And finally, and maybe most importantly, there's a slow, careful refeeding plan to safely bring the digestive system back online.
And I really want to hammer this point home. The most dangerous part of this entire process isn't the fasting itself. It's the refeeding phase afterward. It has to be done so slowly and so carefully to avoid some very serious, even fatal complications. The general rule of thumb is that refeeding should last about half as long as the fast. So a 20-day fast, that means about 10 days of carefully reintroducing food. So it leaves us with this big question, doesn't it? In a world where we're constantly being bombarded with more food, more chemicals, more everything, could the most powerful path to healing actually be a period of profound, deliberate absence? The evidence suggests it's a question worth taking very, very seriously.